on a Black-friendly business. Announcements were made to all members to volunteer as ambassadors of I Love Black People. All social media accounts of I Love Black People were shared to the groups, and members were encouraged to follow, like, share, and comment. The COVID-19 update in Mozambique, the report is that from 28 January 2022, the track trace tests were 7,031,671. Entrance test was 7,031,671. Performed test was 1,219,498. Tested positive were 223,612. Tested negative were 995,886. The cumulative fatalities were 2,165. The recoveries were 209,396. Quarantined were 431. On behalf of Anna Karina from Mozambique, I am Elijah Nyabuti from Kenya. I am because we are.
Thank you so much, Brother Elijah Nyabuti, for representing on behalf of our sister, Anna Karina, from Mozambique. We would like to apologize for the person who were insulting us in the chat room, whose username is iPhone 8. I'd like to announce that he has been removed from this meeting. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We love you and we appreciate all your support wherever you are. We know we are in the different parts of the world, and we appreciate all of you. On next, we're going to have our brother, and he's also a moderator, Joe Kengedichi, to give us a report on behalf of our beloved country, Nigeria. Yes, Brother Joel, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. You can go ahead and present a report on behalf of Nigeria.
Okay, thank you. It is my humble pleasure to present a report on behalf of Nigeria, which submitted by Akin Wade. Thank you. Weekly report from Nigeria from 21st January 2023 to 29 January 2022. This day is 29 January 2022. Country weekly activity. We cannot rest to protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. Nigeria Action Group sent condolences to Canadian bomb explosion that occurred in Ghana. Nigeria citizens welcome the move by Mali to close down the French embassy and abandon French language as their national language. In Central African Republic, Nigeria condemned the attack by Aram border that targeted the civilians. Shared the weekly task was shared. Nigerian netizens condemned the expulsion of ECOWAS in Burkina Faso in attempt coup. Announcements was made to call members to volunteer as ambassador for I Love Black People. And social media account of I Love Black People was shared to the groups as a member were encouraged to follow, like, share, and comment. The community member from different countries was asked to prepare and write and submit weekly report. Shared the I Love Black People actions rules was contained in bio missions and call activities. Weekly newsletter was shared. Shared the call for registration was in wait list for Pan-African course that was taken by Direct Right to Lecture was shared. Announcements was made to call member to Falunda as a member for I Love Black People. As a social media account of I Love Black People was shared to the group to members was encouraged to follow, like, share. The community members from different countries was asked to prepare and write submit the weekly report. Share the I Love Black People action was rule contained. We encourage to submit and give presentation in Saturday Pan-African Community Call, COVID-19 update in Nigeria. Report from 28 January 2022. Tested positive cases 3,029.18. Fatalities is 2,744. Vaccinated is 3,467,724. Recoveries from COVID-19, 456,098. Quarantine in government facilities is 567, reported by Akinwade, Nigeria. I am because we are. Thank you.
I am because we are. Thank you so much, Ajo Ketichi, for representing on behalf of Nigeria. We appreciate you. On next, we are going to have our brother Andrew Magombo to present his country report for Malawi. Yes, brother Andrew, can you hear me?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. You can go ahead and present your report.
Okay, here I have a report on behalf of Malawian ambassadors and members. The week under review is beginning from 22 January to 28th January this year, and it's dated 28th January 2022. At the beginning of this week, in Malawi, we experienced, especially the southern part and the central part of Malawi, we experienced a cyclone, which has been named the Cyclone Anna, which has left us taking the lives of 11 people, and many people are homeless due to the loss of homes and houses due to the same cyclone. And some of the activities that have been taking place in this week as follows. The community had an interactive class session on healthcare from Nana Akua Senzere, and on Pan-Africanism by Dr. Terine Wright. That's on 22nd January. Then a call was made to all members and ambassadors to recommend their favorite Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses that treats fellow Black community with dignity and respect. On 24th January 2022, the community reminded all members and ambassadors to confirm their attendance to the Pan-African Core meeting to be held on 28th, that's today. And members and ambassadors were encouraged to invite friends and family members to join the core so that the Black community is treated well wherever they may go. On 25th, the community had our weekly regular newsletter, which highlights on our 8 essential categories. That's education, health, legal, finance, transportation, beauty, food, and accommodation. On 26th January 2022, members were reminded again to confirm their attendance. And on 27th, members and ambassadors were asked to prepare and submit weekly reports. COVID-19 updates as on 27th January 2022 here in Malawi. Cumulative confirmed cases are amounting up to 84,224, with 119 which were new. Total recoveries are amounting up to 68,843, and amongst them, 296 were new. Currently admitted 121. Total tests conducted so far, 525,448, and total deaths so far, we have 2,544. 7 were registered yesterday. Vaccination. First dose AstraZeneca, 1,098,898. Second dose, 399,078. JJ, 371,330. and first dose Pfizer 4,217. Second dose only 4. Total fully vaccinated are amounting up to 770,408. This report was compiled by I, Andrew Magombo, and on behalf of all Malarians, I am because we are. Thank you.
I am because we are. Thank you so much, Brother Andrew Magombo, for representing Malawi on today's meeting as a country spokesperson. On next, we are going to have again our moderator and Brother Elijah Nyabuti to stand for Paul Joshua to represent for Ghana report. So brother Sesibulo Paul Joshua couldn't join us due to network issues. Yes, Brother Elijah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, you can go ahead and present a report for our brother Sesibu Solo Paul Joshua for Uganda.
Okay, the report is from Uganda. It's dated from 21st January 2022 to 28th January 2022. The weekly activities in Uganda on Saturday, we had interactive class session with Nana Kwasenzele and Dr. Tyrene Wright. So in our group, members were encouraged to recommend Black-owned and Black-friendly businesses. The regular newsletter was shared, which alerts on our 8 essential categories, which is education, health, legal, finance, transportation, beauty, food, and accommodation. And members were reminded to submit their articles for publication. Social media accounts were shared to the group, and members were encouraged to follow, like, comment, share in all platforms. Members and ambassadors were encouraged to always attend online Zoom event, which aims to build a global network to help and protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. So yesterday, members and ambassadors were asked to prepare and submit their weekly reports. COVID-19 update in Uganda as from 28th January 2022. The cumulative confirmed cases were 129,578. The total recoveries were 98,589. Total deaths were 3,523. Cumulative tests were 2,097,581. The report was prepared by Sebusolo Paul Joshua from Uganda, and I am Elijah Nyabuti from Kenya. I am because we are.
I am because we are. Thank you so much, Brother Elijah. On today's, we're going also to have a report from Robson Mwagaka, representing Kenya. Robson, can you unmute yourself and present your report?
I'm Robson Mwagaka from Kenya. I would like to present the report for Kenya.
Yes.
The Kenya report dates from 22nd January 2022 to 28th January 2022. Weekly activities. The community had a Zoom meeting where I Love Black People mission was discussed, and we had sessions and discussed, and we had a class session with Dr. Tyrene Wright and Nana Akua and Zenzele. Regular newsletters were shared, which highlights on the 8 essential categories: education, health, legal, finance, transportation, beauty, food, and accommodation. Announcements were made to members who had to confirm attendance at the free I Love Black People online events. Next step for getting involved. With your help, we are building a global network to help protect Black people from racism and xenophobia. learn about our mission, get involved when it is time to get on the call. Make sure to have good internet connection and join the meeting using these links. Register our family and friends to be members of or ambassadors of I Love Black People. To do so in order to bring continent our door. Social media accounts were shared to groups and members were encouraged to follow, like, and comment. Community members and ambassadors were encouraged to attend our online events, which aims to build a global network to help and protect people from racism and xenophobia. COVID updates. Deaths, 345. Recoveries, 203,705. Fully vaccinated, 103,908. I am because we are. Robson Mogaka from Kenya.
Thank you so much, Robson, for giving us a report representing Kenya. And also, I would like to inform everyone of you that I Love Black People is aware about the situation going on in Burkina Faso, Mali. We did reach out to each and every of our members, checking on them in Mali and Burkina Faso through emails. Thank you so much for continued support, and our co-founder will do a speech on Monday on Twitter, so we encourage everyone to join us on Twitter as well. On today, we're going to have a guest, a speaker from Zambia. His name is Lisulo Muhau. He's going to give us a report. Unfortunately, I think Mr. Muhau left the meeting due to network issues. Yeah, Mr. Muhau, if you're still on the meeting, please kindly raise up your hand so that I will know the name which you are using right now. All right, without wasting much of the time, let me just go ahead and present his report, a speech actually which he compiled. So without wasting his time, let me go ahead and present a report from Mr. Muhau. He left the meeting due to network issues. I will just go through it so that you know what he had presented to us. So he compiled the meeting, a report about the situation in Burkina Faso, about the coup which was happening in Burkina Faso. His report reads, hundreds of people in Burkina Faso's capital owned, Yes, hundreds of people in Burkina Faso's capital have been celebrating after the military seized power. The action of President Roch Kabore was uncertain but not unexpected, and it is the fourth coup in the West Africa in the last 17 months. How serious is the Islamist threat? As in Mali, Mr. Kabore's removal was triggered by growing discontent among security forces over his alleged failure to adequately support them against the militants linked to both Al-Qaeda and the Islamic State. The unrest followed a month of The arrests followed months of the anti-Islamistic state, the unrest demanding the president's resignation. Military attacks that began in 2015 have claimed more than 2,000 lives and forced 1.5 million people from their homes, according to United Nations estimates. Schools were also closed and affected at large. Large parts of the country, because it is too dangerous for them to open public conference on the president's management, and also the security crisis sharply fell after an attack in northern village of Sawam in June 2021. More than 100 people were killed in an attack named on militants who had crossed from Mali. So this report is from the, one of our members who is in Zambia, who compiled it. It goes on to read that. I'll share this report in our WhatsApp group so that you can go through it, and then you have a discussion with our co-founder on Monday through Twitter. Another attack is on the northern side, military base on November 2021. It was triggered by the anger towards the government. More than 50 members of the security forces were killed. Reports emerged that the basic food sent distress messages asking for food, rations, and additional equipment. 2 weeks before the attack, which never arrived, the president sacked his government and appointed a new minister and defense minister ahead of reconciliation talks with the opposition. A coup attempt left the military freely and divided. Mr. Kabore was first elected the first year on, and he pledged to unite the country. Armed groups took advantage of a weak security presence in Burkina Faso, exposed the borderlands, and to mount more attacks and change their presence. All right, thank you so much, everyone, for taking your time to join us. I can see more people are still joining through today. We now have more than 55. Now we're sitting at 58 people who are on the meeting. We appreciate all of you. This report was compiled by Mr. Lisilo Wiemohau of Zambia. So on our next meeting again, today we couldn't get in touch with our co-founder, Mr. Mapondera, due to network issues. He's doing some amazing jobs at his farm in Zimbabwe due to heavy rainfall. So he's expecting some bamba harvest on that side. So he was supposed to give us an update on Mali, and unfortunately he couldn't join us due to network issues from that side. Yes, I can see people were commenting on the comment section, and also our apologies for the user iPhone 8. We removed the person from our chat room and also from this meeting. Those who are watching us from Facebook, you are always free to ask questions and write in the comment section your name, surname, whether you're a member or an ambassador of Alive Black People, and the year you joined us. A special announcement is that during this next month, which is regarded as the month of love, let's all spread love and spread AliveBlackPeople.com to everyone. Announcement on the new application, which is going to be launched soon, will be announced in all our platforms, and also about the Green Book, which was compiled by our own sister Nana Akua Senzele. It's a healthcare edition for this session now. So everyone of you, I'm encouraging you to grab a copy so that you can learn more about holistic health. All right. On next, we are going to have Nana Akua to present on the healthcare edition. Yes, Nana Akua, you can unmute yourself. I've asked you to unmute.
Hello.
Hello, how are you? Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly. Thank you so much for joining us on today's Saturday meeting.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome, everyone. And good day, everyone. I am so happy you have joined us. Hey, Ron. Thank you, Award. I am happy to be here today. My eyes are a little puffy. I made a mistake and watched a little movie that was getting me a little teary-eyed. But I cry easily. So let me clear up. This is probably a good time to take some breaths, right? You know, remember our breathing exercises. Okay. All right. So welcome, everyone. I'm happy that our numbers are increasing. Let's see if you all stay around. Hopefully you all are excited about learning some holistic healing principles. We are on our 4th week for this cycle, and we are talking about cleansing and detoxification. So hopefully you'll find this interesting. If you're in the WhatsApp group, you have received some handouts on different signs of detoxification. Lord have mercy. Okay, so there's another little, what we call these people, trolls, or people sending crazy messages. So it's another one. Looks like that's been happening today. I was just hearing that you cleared somebody up earlier. Somebody can't make good use of their time and their data, I guess. But anywho, we shall prevail either way because we love ourselves, right? And so that we can show how much we love ourselves and taking good care of ourselves, we can learn how to care for our bodies, know how to cleanse and detox our bodies, know how to know signs of detoxification or toxification so that we can, in fact, detoxify our bodies. And so I'm going to pull up our handouts for this week. Oh, Lordy. Okay, we are on week 4, I believe. So let me get that handout. I seem to have a couple of different versions, so let me just make sure this is the right one. Okay, yep, this is right. So if I can share, then I think I have sufficiently pulled it up. If you'll allow me to share, I know you're trying to get rid of this nuisance person, but my sharing is disabled. Oh, okay, so there's a delay. I'm trying to share if one of the, okay, thank you.
All right, you can share now.
I got it. I see. All right, so if you are, see, they keep me busy today, huh, Ward? I see the foolishness going on. So we are going to discuss not only what it means to detoxify, but definitions of cleansing and detoxification, what the paths of elimination are, internal and external detoxification, signs of cleansing or detoxification, or actually before that, we'll even talk about signs of toxic overload. I actually pulled from a good sister, friend, business person here locally who's a colon hydrotherapist. I pulled from her site some signs of toxic overload and some signs that, or some symptoms of detoxification and cleansing. So we'll look at that in a minute. Deneen Cunningham. And we're going to look at some slides I got from her. But let's go forward. And let's get a general definition of what it means to detoxify, or what detoxification is, and what it means to cleanse, or what cleansing is. Okay, so detoxification is basically the process of removing a poisonous or harmful substance from the body, or the neutralization of these effects. So either removing the toxins themselves, or at least mitigating or neutralizing the effects of those toxins, okay? Cleansing is basically the process of making something thoroughly clean, ridding the body of unhealthy, unnecessary substances, cleansing by washing. So these are just some definitions that I came up with. Usually I will use the two interchangeably. Pretty much the point is that we're cleansing. Okay.
Miss Nana, you've unmute yourself. Yeah.
Oh.
Mute yourself.
And I was pretty much talking to myself anyway. Wait a minute, I think I should probably stop this share. Wait, I stopped the share, right?
Yes, you stopped the share.
Yeah, because otherwise I will be pulling up. So I'm just looking for one of the handouts that I wanted to share. Even though I tried to do that beforehand, of course, that's not what happened. Oh, goodness. I don't know how it goes when I'm trying to do something new. It just never seems to work out. So, oh, I think I found it. Hold on. Oh, goodness.
Okay.
Okay, well, it's not working. Try as you might. Okay, let me go back to. Oh, well, back to our same slide. All right, so basically there are, and they are listed here, there was just a flyer that was a little more colorful, but some basic symptoms of detoxification may include body aches, headaches, body odor, bad breath, weakness, purging, skin rashes, fatigue. These are all signs of detoxification. And even before that, before getting into a cleansing regimen or doing some kind of liver detox or colon cleanse, you may have other symptoms that let you know that there's time, or there is the time to cleanse the body. So some common symptoms of toxin overload, and this is how you can know that maybe you need to do a cleanse, is constipation or diarrhea. You could have either or. Fluid retention, irritability, fatigue, skin problems. These are some indicators that you may need to, in fact, do some sort of cleanse, okay? There are different ways in which to cleanse. We may use herbs or homeopathics. We may cleanse by following a detox diet. We may fast. Some people will do water fast. Some people will do juice fast. Some people will just fast from certain types of foods. There's also detox body and foot baths, whether you do a full body detox bath or a foot bath. To detox. There's also different massages that one may use in order to help improve circulation and detox the body in that way. And then skin brushing is another way in which somebody may cleanse the body. So let's talk about the paths of elimination. There are different ways in which to address cleansing. It's not just the colon. A lot of times we'll just focus on colon cleansing. And there are other organs that are responsible for eliminating waste from the body. Kidneys, liver, colon, skin, and lungs are all what we consider our paths of elimination. All of these organs are responsible for releasing either solid or liquid waste or even gaseous waste from the lungs. So these are all the areas that we may focus on when we're doing a cleanse. And we know that we may do those again with foods, with juices, with herbs, even essential oils. There are applications and protocols, diets, routines that we can incorporate these types of things to cleanse these paths of elimination. So let's talk about some of the internal ways to cleanse. So this chart just simply gives us some foods that we can use in a detoxifying diet. We may choose to do a raw food diet where we're not heating up foods beyond a certain temperature, usually somewhere around 115 degrees. We may marinate those, dehydrate those, juice those fruits, vegetables, but a raw food diet is one way of doing it. We may just simply include or increase our raw food intake, whereas that's not exclusively what we're doing, but we may do, say, a 70% live food or raw food diet and limiting our cooked and processed foods to 30%. And now I'm saying processed, but we ideally want, if we're doing a cleansing, we ideally don't want to be doing any processed foods. But even if you're choosing to heat or cook some foods or having seafoods and other things that maybe are not just plant-based, but it all depends. So there are all kinds of options. You may choose to juice fruits and vegetables for a few days as a cleanse. You may choose, there are some people who do water fast. I don't do water fast. There has been times where I have done a cleanse where I included chlorophyll, liquid chlorophyll in the water. And that serves as a really good cleanser. You're still getting nutrients, a lot of minerals because of the chlorophyll. But generally I suggest for myself, juice fast or raw food fast. So if we're talking specifically about the liver, we know that there are certain foods that are good for the liver. So these are grapefruit, beets, carrots, green tea, apples, cabbage, walnuts, arugula, limes and lemons, broccoli, cauliflower, avocado, spinach, garlic, and turmeric. Okay, and off to the side, if you can read it. I tried to make it a little larger so that hopefully you can read this, but off to the side here, this handout shows us why these foods are good, right? So one option, and I know that this is not good, one option if you are not interested strictly in doing a liquid fast, you can do a 3-day liver cleanse where you start with a lemon or lime water, and then you may have some sort of fruit or grains for your breakfast. Let me see if I can see my copy a little better. And you can do a mixture of sauteed vegetables, maybe some kind of grain, rice, amaranth, millet, something of that nature. Okay, my pages are all out of order. Vegetable broth, the foods that were mentioned on the previous slide, and just doing those foods for 3 days. But I know you can't see that because I definitely can't see it. Even putting my glasses on, I don't think will help with that. That's just not that's not a good slide. Another option for cleansing the liver is doing a liver cleanse juice. This can include beet, root, carrot, lemon, cucumber, and ginger. And the option for doing this for say 3 days for maybe 2 of your meals, for a couple of days is an option, doing water and herbal teas in between. This slide includes a recipe on for a smoothie, which includes celery, cucumbers, pineapple, lemon, parsley, ginger, and coconut water. So this is good for the liver and the kidneys. Okay, so this is a good smoothie that will help flush toxins from the body, solid liquid toxins from the body. And then this handout is on turmeric. We've talked about turmeric in previous weeks when we've spoken about herbs. This handout just gives sort of all of the, or maybe not all of the benefits, but a lot of the benefits of turmeric. They include detoxifying the body, boosting immunity, protecting liver tissue, cleansing and purifying the blood, easing symptoms of coughs and colds, improving circulation, improving skin, preventing internal blood clotting. Okay, so turmeric is really, really good. Another one that's not on here is that it's also good for inflammation, along with ginger. So if you're having some joint pain, or inflammation, some gout or something of that nature, turmeric is also really good for. So more specifically about the kidneys, we have this kidney cleansing recipe that includes lemon, celery, cucumber, parsley, and water, right? So we know that this will, if blended up and made into a smoothie, or you can actually juice these things, which I think is a better option. This is a good way to flush the kidneys as well. And if we're talking, moving on to cleansing the colon, if we're talking about colon cleansing, then these are the herbs and foods that are good for cleansing the colon. Flax seeds, alfalfa, spirulina and wheatgrass, chickweed, Cascara sagrada, fennel seeds, aloe vera, peppermint, mango, probiotic yogurt, fermented foods like kefir, and unpasteurized cultured butter, and then organic fruits such as apples, grapes, pineapples, papaya, kiwi. All of these are good for helping to cleanse the body, specifically through the colon, because they help maintain regularity, okay? And let me see if I have success pulling up this one particular. Oh, here it is. Okay, so while we're talking about the colon, let's talk about the proper way in which to poop or have a bowel movement, right? So this handout here talks about whether we are pooping incorrectly. Are you pooping wrong? So a 2003 study, 28 healthy people volunteered their time to do their business in 3 alternate positions. And you see demonstrated the unnatural squatting position where your feet are flat on the floor, then the natural squatting position on a low toilet, and it's basically showing how anatomically what happens to the colon in these different positions, the sitting and the squatting positions, right? So in order to maintain continence, I can't even see that. Oh, okay. The puborectalis, I can't even pronounce the word, muscles choke the rectum. So sitting causes an unnatural state where it does not free or open that rectal or that anal canal so that the waste can relieve itself or release itself from the body. Okay, so basically you have to be in a squatting position. Most times, probably in most situations, people will not actually stand or squat over the toilet. An alternative to this is a stool that you can keep right by your toilet, and it allows you to prop your feet up, right? So that it moves the body so that that valve there is not curved to block the easy flow or to choke that easy flow so that you can release your bowels well, okay? So when we're standing, the colon, where waste is stored, gets pushed up against this puborectalis muscle, which keeps fecal continence until it's time to hit the bathroom. Sitting down only partially relaxes that muscle, so squatting fully relaxes it and essentially straightening out the colon. So in turn, it eases the elimination process. So I thought that this would be helpful if you're able to squat and relieve yourself, great. If you need the help of a stool that you can keep at the base of your toilet, that is also a great option because that props up your feet and it allows for that movement or that change in the body. So how about that for pooping? Now let's talk about ways to know if we are in fact constipated. Because see, pooping is very important. Pooping is very important. Oh, see now, of course, it's acting up. It's not going to give me my other picture. I just did all of that. Oh, goodness. Oh, well. Okay, I tried. Okay, so signs of constipation. So we know that we must go to the bathroom, right? Oh wait, I lost my box. We know that we should be going to the bathroom at least twice a day, okay? If you go 3 times a day or more, awesome, that's great. But what we know for sure is that if you are not going to the bathroom regularly and you are eating regularly, you are in fact constipated. Constipation is not simply the absence of going, it is the absence of having a productive bowel movement where you can easily relieve your bowels and easily pass any solid waste from your body, okay? And so there are 8 causes of constipation. Some medications we know cause constipation, right? Some of our prescription drugs that you may take will cause constipation. We know that even some illicit drugs or illegal drugs or street drugs like opiates, whether you're using them legally or illegally, we know that these things can bind you up and cause constipation. Not drinking enough water, we know, causes constipation. We know that if the intestinal flora or good bacteria or gut bacteria is out of balance, we know that that can cause constipation. Not eating enough fiber can cause constipation. And of course, if you eat a lot of fiber and then don't drink enough water, that too will cause constipation. So usually a good colon cleanser, say like the flax seeds or this herb called psyllium seed husk, they're high in fiber, or a lot of the things listed here in this handout. These are high fiber foods, even the organic fruits that we've listed here. Eating a lot of those things and still not drinking enough water will simply cause the waste to reabsorb within the body inside of the colon, because the water is necessary to flush out the solid waste, right? So those 2 things work hand in hand. So if you're eating enough fiber, you have to make sure that you are drinking sufficient water. And I think we've discussed in the past what sufficient amounts of water is. I think that was in week 1 when we talked about nutrition, and we talked about what the nutrients, macronutrients and micronutrients, right, are. And water was one of our essential nutrients. And we know that we need sufficient water, which is generally half your weight in ounces. So if you're 200 pounds, for example, you need 100 ounces of water. Other causes of constipation: eating too much dairy can constipate the colon. Eating too much sugar and fats can be constipating. Too much calcium or iron. And then, of course, which is another one that maybe most people would not think of, but depression can also be a cause of constipation, okay? So just keep those things in mind when we're talking about cleansing the colon and making sure that this path of elimination is addressed properly. So back to the poo, right? Y'all gonna get tired of talking about stool and bowel and poop today, right? But this is crucial. This is important. It is very unnatural and abnormal to not have a bowel movement every day. And in having your bowel movement, preferably your 2 to 3 bowel movements every day, what we also know is that we have to look at what the bowel looks like, what the stool looks like, right? So we know that we want the waste to pass easily from the body, and we want it to be soft and have clear-cut edges and have some mild shape or form to it. We do not want it to be really hard, solid, separate lumps like in this type 1 picture here, because usually that's going to be very hard to pass, right? You're going to strain a little, may even bleed a little. We know that is not the natural look of a healthy stool. We also know that we don't want type 7, where the waste is watery with no solid pieces, entirely liquid, all fluids. That also is unhealthy. And I would say anywhere probably around this 4 to 6 type is going to be okay. Okay, but evaluate yourself. always look, pay attention to what is coming, well, what goes in your body and what is coming out of your body. So let's talk, we didn't, and I don't have a handout on skin, right? Because that was also one of our paths of elimination, right? But the best thing that I can say about detoxing the skin is to utilize good detox baths and skin brushing. Oh, and paying attention to what you are putting on your skin, okay? So, this is not helpful, right? This is not helpful. I'm gonna change my handouts for this next time. Okay, so we know that for external detox, which in a lot of ways is going to address the skin. We've talked already about the ones that will impact the colon, but skin brushing is important. Skin brushing is what you do with the skin completely dry, using a dry, natural bristle brush. And what we are doing is just brushing the skin to improve and increase circulation and blood flow, but also to really get any dead, dry skin cells, right, that have collected on the skin. But again, it's more like a way of cleansing the body through the lymphatic system, increasing circulation and whatnot. We also know that there are different baths that we can soak our bodies in to help cleanse and help the body to detox through the skin, whether it's a blend of different salts, essential oils, herbs, things of that nature. All of these can be used for the skin. But we also know that cleansing the skin can be an inside job, right? So back to the internal handout. We know also that there are skin cleansing or blood purifying herbs that will also detox the skin. And we maybe mentioned in week 2 when we talked about herbs, we maybe talked about, and if not, let me say it now, anything that cleanses the liver, cleanses the blood, and cleanses the skin. So if you are using milk thistle, if you are using burdock root, if you are using Oregon grape, if you are using yellow dock, and turmeric is another one. But there are so many herbs that cleanse or detox the skin because it is also cleansing and detoxing the liver, okay? Lungs. Again, I don't have, and I'll have to put some effort into creating a new detox packet that will also include handouts on, or just, yeah, some graphics on the lungs. We know that the lungs are very, very important, and some of the best ways to cleanse or detox the lungs, again, we know that internally there are herbs like mullein, like horehound. I feel like I should probably, because I don't have a good handout. Let me see your message. Wait. Oh, I'm not sure I can type into the box. Oh, chat is disabled. Okay. Oh, we had to disable the chat because of the foolishness. Okay, I didn't realize. Okay.
Now you can chat.
Oh, I'm like, what is going on? Y'all know I'm challenged already with this, but geez, now let's hope I can type before the foolishness starts. So I know that it's hard for me just saying the herbs. And like I said, I'll come with a handout when we go through this detox again, where I'll talk about, you know, and give a handout that talks about these different herbs for the skin and for the lungs and that sort of thing. But these are all pretty common, what we call Western herbs. And some of these you should be able to find on the continent as well. But these that I'm typing in right now are the ones I mentioned for the liver. I didn't mention some. Let me add red clover. That's what I got so far. So for the skin, right? We know that for the skin, there are, as I draw a blank, there are herbs that, no, so same thing. I'm not on the skin anymore. My apologies. Skin and lungs. What I was getting ready to talk about was the lungs. I'm losing what I'm saying. Lungs. We know that these are herbs like mullein, wild cherry bark, I'll even put olive leaf here. I think that's great. We know that elderberry, why am I drawing a blank? I'm not doing good at multitasking. I should just be talking and not trying to type, right? Horehound. So these are some of my, I would say, favorites for detoxing the lungs, okay? And then of course we know that conscious breathing, right? We know that this is an excellent way of detoxifying the lungs and strengthening the lungs, right? So we know that pushing out the carbon monoxide and all the bad gases that we would want to get rid of, we know that conscious breathing exercises or we know that training ourselves and disciplining ourselves to do these conscious breathing exercises on a regular basis will also detox the lungs, right? So let me see. I'm sure nobody had a chance to write any actual questions.
No, they can write questions.
No, I'm scrolling through to see if they did before you had to cut it off. So I'm not sure. I'm just looking quickly to see if there were any
All right.
questions. Oh, golly. Okay, why did I waste time trying to scroll through this stuff? Okay, all right, there's nothing for me to, okay, there's no questions in the chat. It doesn't appear, all the foolishness. Who do y'all think that is? Okay, we talking about these people, but this don't sound like your typical racist white person that's doing this. Those of us that live here in America, I think would agree with me. Just looks different. Looks different. Doesn't look like it's your standard white racist that is on here hollering the N-word. Which of course is even more ridiculous that if it's not, but anyway, we're not gonna give them time. I'm just scrolling through. So let's do a quick recap here of this part. So we know liver detox methods may include some of the smoothies, juices, herbs that we've talked about. So you know that there are recipes for beet juices that include carrots and ginger and things like that. We know that we can also include the herbs that I typed a few of in, like the milk thistle and the burdock root and things of that nature. Kidney detox. We know that flushing with good liquids, lemon water, lime water, herbs that include parsley, buchu. See, I guess I should be consistent with that. So if I listed some herbs for the others, let's list some for the kidneys. Buchu, uva, ursi, parsley, juniper. These are sort of just quickly the ones that come to mind. in terms of cleansing and detoxing the kidneys. But we also know that foods like celery and cucumber and water, all of these are excellent detoxifiers for the kidneys. Moving to the colon, recapping here, we know that good bowel habits is essential, making sure that we're achieving 2 to 3 bowel movements a day, high fiber fruits, avoiding certain things like unnecessary medications, too much iron, too much calcium. And then I think sometimes the key with some of the minerals like that, if we have to take those, doing a food-based or what we call a whole food or plant-based vitamin is going to probably ensure that, say, taking supplemental iron will not constipate you. You have a better chance if it's a food sourced iron supplement or a food-based calcium supplement. But we know that proper bowel habits are important. We want to evaluate our stool. We want to make sure that it's the right consistency and that we're getting plenty of fluids to flush out and to flush and wash away the solid waste that needs to be eliminated from the body. In terms of the lungs, we know that breathing exercises, conscious breathing exercises is crucial. And we know that there are herbs that address that as well, like horehound and mullein and slippery elm and some others that just are not coming to mind now. Skin detox, we talked about the herbs. The same ways that we cleanse the liver, we know that will also have an impact on the skin. And so some herbs that are great for that, we've already discussed. We know that salt baths, the use of certain herbs and essential oils on the skin is important. And then let me add here that I didn't say previously, is that also what we know and want to focus on is that what we put on our bodies, what we put on our skin, which is our largest organ, we want it to be as natural as possible. And not that we would eat or consume our skin products, but we want it to be healthy enough to where we could. And that's not saying that you wouldn't have different essential oils or fragrances or things in your skin products, but you want to limit it to really healthy, natural fragrances, not artificial man-made fragrances, but natural fragrances from essential oils and herbs and flowers and things of that nature. And then you want the base to be a base that we can consume, a cocoa butter, a coconut oil, a shea butter, something that's now avocado butter. You know, it be based with olive oil or almond oil or apricot oil, not a petroleum or some paraben, something that's completely artificial and harmful to the body. Because we want to bring this point across that all of our contact with these things, it's absorbed into the body. So anything that you put on your skin, anything that you allow your skin to come in contact with will indeed be absorbed into your body. So you want good, natural, well-made skin products, not cheap products. I'm a thrifty person. I'm a dollar store shopper. In other parts of the world, you may not have what we call dollar stores, right? But they're here, they have these stores where they sell really cheap products. And for some things, that's okay, right? For some things, you're going to get a nail clipper or a fingernail file, or you're going to get a gift bag or some wrapping paper or some paper plates or, you know, a Ziploc bag. All of that's fine. Dollar Tree is wonderful, or whatever other dollar stores. I'd love to own one of those, you know, so I think that they are good money makers and they're convenient. However, I don't buy my foods or my vitamins or supplements or my skincare products from these stores. We know for sure that if they can be sold for $1, that they are made with maybe 10, 20 cents worth of products. And so we know that these are not going to be your healthiest, more natural products that you're going to put in your body or on your skin. Okay. So that being said, let me move on a bit and let's talk about, let me stop my share for a second. I think there were some additional comments. Hey, Nairobi, Kenya. Oh, they ain't talking to me. They want a t-shirt. I can't help you. Yes, Woodley. Yep, I agree completely. Rule of thumb being, if you can ingest it, it can go on your body and in your hair. I completely agree. And yes. And please stay tuned for Dr. Wright. Exactly. And if you all can add how, I think there's a waiting list, I want to say, for the WhatsApp group. So if Award or Yvonne can post how they can join the WhatsApp group, I will take this time to put my email in, because as always, if the handouts, and I'll tell you, I'm going to change this, at least for this week's set of handouts. I am going to make some improvements with that, but I'm glad to send you what I currently have. And one of those handouts is going to be, and if I can pull it up, is going to be an improved handout on the glycemic index, because what we're going to talk about next is just, oh my gosh, what is this? And I'm not sharing my screen. This is not what I asked you to open. Don't say it. Okay, thank you. So let me share now. Goodness. So the glycemic index is basically a chart that was developed to give a rating for foods that foods that contain carbohydrates, right? That have a starch content, right? And so the goal or the objective is to know whether they are a low, moderate, or high glycemic food, meaning how quickly it will peak or spike your blood sugar. And so the goal is to stay under 70, right? So the goal is to stay under 70. So again, this glycemic index has assigned a number. So anything that's 70 or more is considered to be a high glycemic food, okay? And so what we would want to do that are over 70, if it's hovering somewhere around 70, that would still be one of those things I would say still do in moderation. But if it's well over 70, you would really want to exclude that from your diet if you can. And what we will note, right, is there even some foods that I wouldn't necessarily say these are all healthy foods, but we know that these are foods that we may consume. So there's candies listed here, there's cereals, different things that maybe we wouldn't do when we're doing a detox diet, right? But still, just the same, you need to know which foods are going to be better options. So even if you're going to eat some cereal or a candy bar, or even like chocolate is listed here, jelly beans is listed here, you know, so even some certain snack foods, cookies, things of that nature. If you learn the glycemic index, you will start to develop a knowledge of what foods are generally going to be good for you to snack on, to include in your regular meals, you know, that sort of thing. What I want to focus on is the sugars, okay? And really, I just couldn't play around with it enough to pull up what the new chart that I made and everything. But so I'm going with this chart, which I don't find to be accurate in all of my 20-some years of study and work in this field. And I created or compiled another chart. But what I think is important to note is that most sugars are going to be over 70. And absolutely, absolutely, this honey number here, honey is well over 70. Even sucrose. Sucrose is your regular standard table sugar. Definitely is over 70. Both of these are going to be in your hundreds. Fructose, which is fruit sugar, this seems a little accurate. Maltose, you're not going to usually buy separately. This is what's going to be found in your prepackaged foods and sweets and things like that. But what I more so want to offer here is natural sugar substitutes, not standard sugar substitutes like your yellow, blue, and pink packets, right? Not the aspartame, and not the, oh gosh, and I know somebody in here knows the other name and I just can't think of it, but not the artificial sugars, not the artificial sweeteners that you find in these store packets, the ones that have been around for a long time. Fortunately, now what you can find is some of the more natural alternatives in prepackaged little packets, like the stevia, or there's a brand called Truvia, which has some actual cane sugar and stevia mixed together. Or you can now find little agave nectar. Usually they're coming in little plastic tubes because it's a liquid, but so that you can have single serving applications that you can stick in your lunch bag or travel with or what have you and use. They now have those. So, but I'm talking about the old school pink, yellow, and blue packets. These are not going to be good. Even when you get some of the foods now that'll say it's sugar-free or no sugar, these have artificial sweeteners in them. And unless it has stevia or monk fruit or agave nectar or xylitol or some of these natural sweeteners, these are still not going to be good options for you because it's going to have the aspartame and what is the other name? But it's going to have the artificial sugars in it because nobody's going to eat most of these foods that don't have any kind of sweetener in it. But what you want is something that is sweetened with a natural sweetener. Agave nectar, xylitol, which I know sounds very artificial, but it comes from a tree. So it is plant-based, or monk fruit, or they even have coconut sugar now, and all of these natural substances are better options than a lot of the, and even better than honey. I'm not a supporter, I'm not a fan of honey. There are people who have had allergies and other issues where they really stand by honey. If it works for you and it has controlled some allergies or some other things like that, or old school treatment for asthma used to be using honey. If you just love honey and you have an old school remedy that used it, then I would get local raw honey only. Local raw honey only. So next, I just wanted to go quickly over this blood pressure handout. Because we know that dealing with our blood sugar, which for some people develops into diabetes, and we know the elevated blood pressure, these are big concerns in the Black community. So I wanted to at least add some handouts and information about these two issues. This chart I find to be excellent because it gives you a really detailed explanation of what really severe high blood pressure is, and then what really low hypotension, low blood pressure is. So it gives you the actual systolic and diastolic numbers, and then gives you some suggestions and some guidelines as to what things to avoid and include. So I really like this handout, right? So just, we know for sure this range here, where it's in the green here, we know that this is the range of blood pressure that you would want to maintain. And in order to do that, you know that you would have to avoid certain foods, right? No high salt foods, no medium salt foods, no saturated fats, no hydrogenated oils, right? And this is usually in those prepackaged foods that I mentioned earlier. You're not going to just go to the store and see hydrogenated oil on a bottle on the shelf, or partially hydrogenated oils on the shelf. It's going to be in products that you will buy. These products that live on the shelf for years and years and years, they are going to have hydrogenated oils. And these are not natural oils. In addition to elevating your blood pressure, they're going to elevate your cholesterol and all these sorts of things. I see Peter is doing some stuff over there. Oh, he's talking to somebody else. Okay. Thought he was giving me the thumbs up. Then we know that the foods that you would include are foods like apples, avocados, bananas, broccoli, fish, grapes. Okay, maybe Joshua really smiling at me. So Peter talking to somebody else. But all right. See, I can only see like 3-4 people right now though. So if it's some other people, my screen, I only see like 4 people. But water, orange juice, oats, grapes, fish, these are yes foods. We know that herbs like hawthorn berry and garlic, these are going to be herbs that will help regulate your blood pressure. We know that foods like fish oil and flaxseed oil, and we mentioned flaxseed oil earlier. Anybody remember what that was from? What path of elimination is flaxseed good for? I would love if somebody put that in the chat. We know that amino acids like CoQ10 and I-carnitine are good. We know that minerals like calcium, magnesium, and potassium are excellent for regulating blood pressure. We want to make sure that we have enough vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E, B complex, folic acid, and niacin. We want those in our daily supplementation. And we know that certain habits we need to change. We need to stop smoking. We need to lower our weight and exercise if we are battling with high blood pressure. We know that we have to incorporate low salt foods, low protein foods. I guess it depends on the type of protein, but we want to eliminate caffeine. We want to get sufficient rest. We want to not worry. We want to, make sure we take care of our mental health, right? And then, we want to not oversleep. You want to be active. Movement is very important to everything. Heart health is always going to need proper movement. And it's not to say you have to become a gym rat. You can certainly, but if you do that and you work out a lot, that's also great. But it doesn't mean you have to spend all of your days and hours in a gym, but make effort to move your body every day, even if it's basic stretching or calisthenics, if it's floor exercises, if it's yoga, if it's walking up and down your steps multiple times to just increase your steps. But getting movement in is going to be essential. Okay. So, great. All right. So it doesn't look like I have questions. And nobody put what we talked about in terms of which path of elimination that we already mentioned flaxseed. It was the colon, remember? All right. So all of these things are really interchangeable. All of this information can be used for multiple things. It's all relative. Everything is related. Every part of the body, every organ, every gland, every tissue, every cell, it all works together. Everything impacts the other thing. Okay, so all of these things tie in together. They're all important. And if you just utilize the information that you're provided here, you have a really, really good start. You have a really good chance of staying healthy, regaining health, all of that. So definitely utilize the information. See which ones of these herbs that we've mentioned today can you find and access. If you can't find every one, then, you know, use what you can. We know that ginger is widely grown, you know, throughout the world. That's one of those that will have multiple uses and benefits. Even though we didn't highlight ginger per se here, ginger definitely has cleansing and detoxification effects as well. And as always, I always suggest going to your local herbalist, your traditional healers, because they'll show you and tell you where you can find things to help detox the body. Colon cleansing is very popular here in the States. A lot of times people only focus on colon cleansing, but every organ, every system can go through a cleansing, you know, an overhaul, a rebuilding, a rejuvenation. Okay, so every system, we can do that. So you don't have to just focus. Now, you do have to have a bowel movement every day, right? But you also have to evaluate your urine, make sure you're having, you know, good urine flow, and it's not, you know, a really strong smell or a very dark color. Or we do have to make sure that we address these breakouts and skin blotches and rashes and things that we get. And we do have to regulate our breathing and making sure that we don't become winded at the simplest of things. So we can all evaluate kind of how we're functioning and how our organs may be doing and determine whether we need to do a cleanse or a detox of any of these passive elimination that we've talked about today, or any other body system you know, that exist. So always focus on your health in regards to cleansing the body and keeping it washed and purged sufficiently. Every season is an excellent time to do it. Some type of cleansing with the change of every season is an excellent timeline. Okay, so thank you for joining us today. I appreciate you. I love you all. Wonderful to see you all. And as always, I bid you good health and peace. Have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you so much, Nana Akua, for a wonderful lecture. We appreciate you. Thank you, everyone who joined us since we started this meeting till up to now, and I hope you learned a lot from Nana Akua. On next, we are going to have our amazing doctor, and she's a professor at the City of New York University in the USA. Her name is Dr. Tyreen Wright, and she's going to lead us with a Pan-African organizing class. Dr. Tyreen Wright, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you, and I'm here. Let me open my camera. Hello, everyone. Let me see if I can get my camera. Okay.
All right.
Hello, everyone. Hello, hello. Okay. Okay, welcome, everyone. Can you all see me? Yeah, okay, good. You can see me. Good. All right, so welcome to Pan-African History and Organizing course. It's the Ideological Development course for I Love Black People. I'm trying to give you a better, okay. Give more light. Okay, here we go. All right, so yes, welcome everyone. So hopefully you all got a chance to see the readings for this week. We had a lot and one carryover document on Amilcar Cabral that we're reading this week. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Some people had asked me about the book before. This is the book that you read the last 2 chapters from. I shared those chapters, so no one has to buy anything in this course. It's all provided for you by myself, and I Love Black People, in the sense that we actually give you the documents, so you don't have to go out and purchase anything. But the last session, we covered 2 cases, the African exclusion measure and the the African exclusion measure and the Liberian crisis, which involved Booker T. Washington. And this week we are, let me adjust my camera. And like how that looks. Okay. This week we are discussing a couple of readings from African nationalists on the continent. And we're basically following the pattern. I'm gonna go off camera for 1 second just so that I can bring the documents and everything into focus for us and share them. I'll be sharing them. So you will see who we covered this week. Hello, how are you? So you can see who we covered this week. In addition to Amilcar Cabral, okay? And I keep coming back to Amilcar Cabral for a particular reason, because every time I teach this course, there's a lot of questions about, ethnic differences. How do we come together, work together if we have ethnic conflict, if we have national conflict, issues with that? And so Amilcar Cabral, he attempts to answer this question in the continental African reality, okay? And so I addressed that here, this session, and going forward a little bit too, but I think we're in our third session here, so I'm trying to get it in. So let me pause my camera just for a second and begin to bring the documents up for us, okay? That being said, I hope you will have had a chance to read the materials for this week. I think I was about a half a day late with posting them, but I believe you've had them since Wednesday. Okay. 1 second. So Amilcar Cabral, as you all know, is from Guinea-Bissau. And he was the leader of the PAIGC he was the leader of the PAIGC in Guinea-Bissau, a very small African country in West Africa. It was one of the few in West Africa to fight an armed struggle. And he would recruit the people in this armed struggle from the masses of the working people. There's two things that I'm gonna do, okay? Because actually I realized something. I forgot we had our film this week too. So I'm gonna give you a clip from that film. So I'm gonna share my screen and do that. But also I'm going to cover both pieces from Amilcar Cabral, okay? So let me start with the film. So the film you were supposed to also watch was a film called Cuba, an African Odyssey, right? And it was an important film, but it's a film that we only use for one purpose, which is to chronicle the liberation struggles on the African continent, okay? Not for the purpose of elevating Cuba or anything like that, but for the purpose of highlighting the struggle across the continent in terms of African nations as it marched towards liberation. So I don't want people to get the wrong impression that we're trying to give primacy to Cuba in the conversation about Pan-Africanism or about African people. That's not the point or the objective of it. The point of using it is to just highlight the fact that Cuba is a vantage point from which we can look at African liberation, because they are a small Caribbean nation that actually participated in and identifies as an African Caribbean nation, right? As opposed to just a Caribbean nation that is invested and has invested time in the liberation of Africa. this film is just simply a good way to an entry point into that conversation about African liberation. It's not necessarily, even though Cuba stands apart and is separate from the rest of the Caribbean, South Latin America, South America, it is certainly an exceptional nation in respect to the progressive attitude and the identity it has in terms of Africa. However, it will be African people who will liberate Africa. It will not be anybody else, right? And so I don't want people to misconstrue the use of this particular film for the purpose of talking about African liberation, okay? So it's just a film that gives a good chronology for someone who is just being introduced to these historical facts, okay? So certainly I believe, and you should believe, in the primacy of Africa. You should believe in the primacy of African people, Black people, in order to liberate ourselves, right? That we're going to do the most, that it is us. And leading into that, let me just say this. I'm going to show a clip from the film, hoping that some people saw it, but some may not. It is part of my lecture when I do lecture about this. That being said, this portion, the two portions I am going to show today, one gives focus and light to Amilcar Cabral as a leader of the PAIGC and as a young revolutionary at that time in the world. And he talks about precisely the issue that so many of you write in question about in terms of ethnic differences, diversity, and even conflict, okay? The other reason I'm showing this film is because it begins with the most important assassination of the 20th century, which is the assassination of Amilcar Cabral. Not Amilcar Cabral, I'm sorry, of Patrice Lumumba. And Patrice Lumumba would be the very young clerk who would rise to prominence or notoriety or visibility in the Congo as the prime minister of the Congo. Democratic Republic of the Congo, and he actually was assassinated. The United States was involved. He was at the center of a struggle between the East and the Western blocs, the Cold War. And if you have ever wondered, are other people who are not African invested in the unity, which is what we're talking about, right? Pan-Africanism means unity of African people. If other people are invested in the unity of African people, this story or this historical fact or a historical reality that Patrice Lumumba was assassinated answers that question. Yes, actually, not only are few people invested in disrupting the unity of African people, the whole world is actually invested in disrupting the unity of African people. That's precisely what the story or the history of Patrice Lumumba exhibits, okay? Who should care if the Congo, the heart of Africa, is unified? Why should the Soviets care? Why should America care? Well, they do care because of the very vast resources that exist in the Congo. I'm sure it's not the first time you all are hearing this. Cobalt, coltan, things of that nature, things that allow Western nations to establish and build their military capability and industries. And so the fate of the Congo would be toyed with as a result of this, okay? And Patrice Lumumba will ultimately die because African liberation is not left up to African people, but other people are interested in disrupting it, right? And will use other people, example, Mobutu Sese Seko, in order to interrupt African liberation, okay? And so that is answered with what you will see here with the film, the documentary, and Patrice Lumumba. And I always show it first because it is such an important, you should know about it. If you know anything about, if you want to know anything about Africa, you should know about this moment in history. where the Congo was liberated after a long struggle, and where that liberation was sort of snatched away and imposed a sort of neo-colonial reality on the Congo, right? So I'm going to take myself off camera. So we're going to come in with talking about, Cuba and its role in South Africa briefly, and it goes right to Patrice Lumumba. Then I'll be stopping it, and then I'll go right to the information on Amilcar Cabral, right? The very young clerk who would, the very young revolutionary who would recruit men and women to fight for the liberation of Guinea-Bissau, right, and Cape Verde. So let me pause this. And moderator, can you tell me, because I always do this on my device, even though my computer is like right here. It gives me more mobility when I'm on my device. But that being said, can you make sure that, let me see. Okay, no. Can you make sure that the sound is correct? Now I'm echoing my voice. Okay, so 1 second.
All right, I will let you know.
Okay, because I'm about to share my screen. So give me a moment, folks. And you guys can put questions in the chat, because this time while you're watching the film, I will be looking in the chat on my computer at the same time, which I don't always do, but I will. I'm side by side with the computer, so I'm going to do that. All right. All right. So I have permission to share, right? Okay.
Yes. Yes, you can share.
Okay. And then you can just let me know if you hear properly, if you hear the sound.
July 1991 in Havana.
Can hear?
It is Nelson Mandela's first trip outside Africa since
Can
his
you all
release
hear?
from 27 years of prison.
Everything.
But why would
Okay,
the legend
perfect.
of struggle against oppression decide that the first person he wants to thank for helping to end apartheid is Fidel Castro, the very man who is regarded in the West as an oppressor of his own people? Fidel Castro and 500,000 Cubans took part in the African wars, which ultimately ended colonialism. This little-known story began in 1960, only a year after Cuban revolutionaries triumphed. Their struggle had captured people's imagination, and the young, feisty leaders, Fidel Castro and Che Guevara, emerged from 3 years of guerrilla war as heroes. The wave of independence in Africa was spreading like wildfire. That year alone, 17 African countries gained independence, and 30 others started their revolutionary armed struggle. African revolutionaries were looking to the Cubans as a model for their own independence. Cuba was living proof that David could beat Goliath.
Esta gran humanidad ha dicho basta y ha echado a andar, y su marcha de gigantes ya no se detendrá hasta conquistar la verdadera independencia. Quería referirme específicamente al doloroso caso del Congo, único en la historia del mundo moderno, que muestra cómo se puede burlar con la más absoluta impunidad, con el cinismo más insolente, el derecho de los pueblos.
Che Guevara was revolted, and his speech gave a clear signal that Cuba intended to act. The case of Patrice Lumumba in the Congo was symbolic of how African independence would be crushed by Cold War strategic interests. It was Lumumba's assassination that sparked a new era for many African revolutionaries, and with it started the epic of Cuba and Africa. the Congo, one of the largest and richest countries on the continent. The Belgian colony was demanding immediate independence. Patrice Lumumba, the young articulate clerk, led the movement that negotiated a peaceful solution to end Belgian rule. On June 30th, 1960, King Baudouin arrived in Leopoldville, the capital named after his great-uncle, to hand over power.
Le roi Baudouin était dans une voiture découverte. Il saluait la foule, etc. Un Congolais s'est précipité sur la voiture. J'ai vu les gardes du roi dégainer. Et tout le monde avait peur, se disait il va tuer le roi. Non, il a simplement sorti l'épée du roi de sa gaine. Et il s'est mis à danser avec cette épée. C'est très symbolique ça. C'est comme s'il lui a arraché le pouvoir.
On Independence Day, all the dignitaries assembled in Parliament. King Baudouin was to announce the transfer of power to the new government. Patrice Lumumba had just been elected Prime Minister. But the euphoria of independence did not last long. That same day, Lumumba lit a fire that spread through the entire continent.
L'indépendance du Congo constitue l'aboutissement de l'œuvre conçue par le génie du roi Léopold II.
Le discours du roi Baudouin, qui nous rappelait comment la Belgique nous a sortis de l'esclavage, comment ils ont lutté pour nous sortir des maladies du sommeil, et patati patata. Ça a été un choc. Nous ne nous attendions pas à ce rappel malheureux parce que nous estimions que le roi Baudouin n'avait plus de leçons à nous faire ce jour-là.
À ce moment-là, Lumumba se lève, qui n'était pas programmé comme devant parler à ce moment-là. Il se lève et il parle. Il fait un discours très militant.
Combattants de l'indépendance, aujourd'hui victorieux, je vous salue au nom du gouvernement congolais. Nous avons connu les ironies, les insultes, les coups que nous devions subir matin, midi et soir, parce que nous étions des nègres.
Rappelez-vous comment on traitait le blanc par rapport au noir. Rappelez-vous dans les écoles quelle place nous occupions. Rappelez-vous tout l'apartheid. Alors évidemment, réaction immédiate de toute la délégation belge. Bon, beaucoup d'agitation pendant que Lumumba parle.
Qui oubliera enfin les fusillades où périt tant de nos frères, ceux qui ne voulaient plus se soumettre au régime d'injustice, d'oppression et d'exploitation.
C'était mal reçu par les Belges, mais nous avons tout à fait répondu à nos aspirations.
Et au moment du dîner, on demande à Lumumba de présenter des excuses. Il ne s'en fait pas. Il présente les excuses en disant « Je pensais que je devais dire à cet homme des choses, je les ai dites, donc si ça a blessé, je m'en excuse et je demande qu'on tourne la page et que nous puissions voir les choses autrement. » Mais il était trop tard. La majesté était lésée. Et la majesté lésée a décidé le soir même de se venger et tout a commencé.
Lumumba wanted to govern independently, but there were only 30 university graduates in the Congo, so it was agreed that for the next 5 years, Belgium would continue to run the important departments of the new state, including the army. The soldiers felt excluded from the newly acquired freedom. Within days, they started a mutiny, which led to the breakdown of the entire country.
The troops were roaming the streets, all armed, and it was quite a racial problem. The mutineers were there, and they had matiti, that's bushes on their helmet, which was a sign that they were prepared for action. for combat. I can remember one yelling, "Venez, venez, sale flamand." We were all dirty Flemish. That was some an expression that meant you were really bad, and we're going to kill you. More stories circulated about killing, rape, pillage, etc. It was, if you will, the Iraq of today.
Le 10 juillet, retenez bien la date, les militaires belges ont occupé l'aéroport de Njili, ici. Ils ont organisé l'agression du Congo en disant, puisque les militaires congolais mutinés se sont attaqués aux femmes, aux enfants et aux officiers, la Belgique n'avait plus aucun autre moyen de protéger ses ressortissants que de faire venir des troupes belges, le 10 juillet. 10 jours après.
Lumumba immediately turned to the US for support. The United States had never been a colonizing power, and their democratic principles seemed to guarantee support for people fighting for independence. Fidel Castro himself had chosen the US as his first stop for support when his revolution triumphed a year earlier. But like Castro, Lumumba's attitude did not go down well with the Americans.
I was in the lobby of the embassy when this little Congolese clerk came in and he said he wanted 24 visas. He didn't know what a visa was. I said, well, do you have passports to put the visas in? No, patron. He didn't. So I explained to him what a visa was. And I said, why do you need 24? Well, he said, Lumumba is going to the States to see President Eisenhower. I said, oh, that's interesting. Told the ambassador. He said, I'm not aware of it. So he checked, and Eisenhower said, well, if he comes, I'll be here.
Monsieur le secrétaire d'État, c'est avec un réel plaisir que je me trouve aujourd'hui aux États-Unis, pays de démocratie et de liberté, pour prendre contact avec vous.
Lumumba couldn't have made a worse impression on the Secretary of State and his deputy and other people with whom he met there. He threatened, he asked for things.
Let me just interrupt really quickly. So the purpose of using this is to give you context and the real historical context of the goings on as it related to the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. By no means are we adopting what this individual is saying in terms of his opinion about Patrice Lumumba or even the situation. So we know that the United States was involved in the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. That is a fact. This man here is telling you that he was an agent sent there to actually facilitate some of this by the United States, the State Department. And so those are the things, his opinion about what Patrice Lumumba did in the evening that he spent in the United States, or what he requested or didn't request. These are not things that we're concerned about or even take his word about, right? That being said, so please stay focused on the facts, right, that are being presented here. In other words, for many, many years, the assassination of Patrice Lumumba was a big mystery because they were diabolical enough to destroy his body and lie for a long time about his assassination. And so, you know, to have this confession, so to speak, or admission by agent of the United States brings it sort of full circle for many people in the world when this film came out, and some other things that came out that revealed this. But the United States always concealed its role in the assassination of Patrice Lumumba. It meant that the Congo would go from being a Belgian colony to a colony that was now infiltrated by international colonialism, right? So imagine, if you can imagine, one hand inside of the Congo, one white hand inside the Congo. And then now with this assassination, now you have many white hands in the Congo, okay? Manipulating the fate of millions of African people and stealing, essentially, the resources. So that is what you should come out of this understanding, and understanding how the fate of the Congo would be a world affair. It wouldn't simply be an affair of just Africans, as it should be. It becomes instead a world affair where these places and people who would never come to the Congo, have never been to the Congo, have no right to the Congo, the people or its resources, would be making decisions and stating claim to all of the above, okay? So that is the purpose of us using this film. I don't want anybody to misconstrue this. We use tools in here, right? So, and if listen, well, I'll leave it there, but this is a tool to extract information from with regard to this particular historical moment, okay?
Including to have a woman sent around to his room.
The visit was not a success, and it was clear that Washington would not come to his rescue. Just as Lumumba was leaving Washington, Cuba announced the nationalization of US companies, and a trade embargo was immediately imposed on the island. Lumumba, like Castro, soon discovered that the Soviet Union was more than happy to help where the US would not.
À ce moment-là, Lumumba commet probablement la deuxième erreur. Ils prennent la décision, ils font un télégramme adressé à Khrouchtchev pour lui demander l'envoi des troupes de l'Union soviétique pour venir chasser les Belges. Ce télégramme, avant même qu'il ne sorte, est volé au secrétaire de Lumumba par son ancien directeur de cabinet qui s'appelait Kandolo Damien. Larry Devlin s'accapare du télégramme, les transmet au gouvernement américain.
We became aware of it almost immediately, and it came from Congolese sources. That immediately alerted the Americans. I became wide-eyed at that. I said, we have a problem here. He tried to play off the West against the East. It's an old game, but it was relatively new at that time in Africa.
Mais Larry Devlin ne l'a pas pris comme ça, il l'a pris pour dire, voilà, la preuve est là, que le monde est communiste par conséquent. Outre le fait qu'il a insulté le roi des Belges, il est communiste, donc il faut le chasser du pouvoir.
The Congo crisis was becoming more than just a local conflict in faraway Africa. The superpowers were taking a particular interest, especially Moscow, that had recently set up a bureau for aiding anti-colonial liberation movements.
The Soviet Union was eager to help, or at least agreed to help, the legally elected Congolese government. That was in the last days of July, when a squadron of our Ilyushin 14 transport planes, about 10 left for Leopoldville. By the way, they landed in Athens, at the airport, which was partly NATO base. It became a big noise. The whole noise about the Cold War started when we landed there.
It was the first time that there'd ever been Soviets in that part of Africa, at least, certainly not the Congo, and very few in the rest of Africa, because the colonial powers were not desirous of having the Soviets there.
Третий мир в этой войне был полем, так сказать, для охоты. Перевели вам? Полем для охоты. Почему? В Европе границы были забетонированы. Перейти границу означало начать атомную войну, которую никто не хотел. А третий мир, он был как будто без хозяина. Там была возможна свободная охота. Там можно было приобретать влияние.
We believed, and I think it's true, that it was an attempt to hold Congo as a base, especially as a base of minerals for the United States, for the West. We should not forget that the first atomic bomb was done of those uranium found in Congo.
There were only two countries in the world that supplied cobalt at that time, Soviet Union and the Congo.
Very
And
important point when they begin to talk about the resources that are found in the Congo, because this is, of course, the motivation for the desire to control the territory, the nation, and its people.
It is extremely important for jet engines and all sorts of high technology. And we could not get it from the Soviet Union because it was a security commodity. So Congo was our only source.
I suspect that the people in Washington began wondering where are we going to get our cobalt from if the Soviets managed to control that.
The United States deplores the unilateral action of the Soviet Union in supplying aircraft and other equipment for military purposes to the Congo. The Soviet action, which seems to be motivated entirely by the Soviet Union's political designs in Africa. I must repeat that the United States takes a most serious view of this action by the Soviet Union.
Eisenhower fumed about aggressive Soviet support for his opponents. Soviet military aid for Lumumba arrived in the Congo only 1 month after the first Soviet arms shipment had landed in Cuba. To make matters worse, Castro openly declared that he intended to use these weapons to export his revolution. Eisenhower decided to send the CIA into action.
I received a message saying that people in Washington were highly concerned about the activities of the Prime Minister and that they hoped that he would go, it would be a change in the government. The next thing I knew, I received a cable saying that someone by the name of Joe would arrive in Leopoldville, and I was to take my instructions from him. And the instructions were that I was to remove him physically from, in other words, assassinate Lumumba. I asked first, whose instructions are these? And he said, they've come from President Eisenhower. The president wanted this done, and I was to put together these poisons and bring them out to you. One of the poisons was a tube of toothpaste that had poison in it, so that if he'd brushed his teeth with it, that was been the end of the man. All of these things I put in my safe because I didn't want them lying around the office. If somebody may say, may I use your toothpaste? I felt that I had some pretty good operations going, and in the long term, my operations would achieve the objective of removing Lumumba from office, but not killing him.
The Congo plunged into utter chaos. In the confusion, two separate secession movements broke away from Lumumba's government. The country desperately needed to be brought under control.
The United States started to worry about it because the Soviets were backing Lumumba. So President Eisenhower said, well, we may have to use NATO there to keep the Soviets out. But finally, cooler heads prevailed, and they asked the UN Security Council to send a peacekeeping operation to the Congo. President Eisenhower made some very basic policies which are still in existence today. And he said that if there are troubles in Africa, we don't want to have to send troops there, or Europeans should not send troops. It should all be done by the UN.
Lumumba thought that the arrival of the UN peacekeepers would help him bring stability. He was wrong. The UN mission provided the missing ingredient to oust his government. Lumumba had just promoted his personal secretary, Joseph Mobutu, to Army Chief of Staff. Mobutu was to coordinate with the UN troops to stop the country's descent into anarchy Instead, he turned to Larry Devlin.
Mobutu said that the army was very unhappy with the prime minister because he was turning the army over to the Soviets. He wanted to mount a coup d'etat, but there was one condition. They had to know that they would have the support of the United States government. I had tried and failed to achieve by legal means what they wanted, the United States government wanted. So I stood up and shook his hand. Finally, it took me a while to do this, and said, I guarantee you the support of the United States government. And the coup, he said the coup will take place within a week, and it did.
UN troops were supposed to protect the independence of Congo, but they would not allow the Congolese troops, which were loyal to Lumumba, to operate. The mission of the United Nations troops was misused to topple the regime of the government of Lumumba, or at least not to protect Lumumba.
Les troupes des Nations Unies ici vont encercler la résidence du Premier ministre. Sans aucun mandat, sans aucune autorisation, il y a une crise interne, les Nations Unies s'interposent et vont mettre le Premier ministre en résidence surveillée.
Lumumba's supporters organized his escape. He was sneaked out of his house, bundled up in the back of a government car.
Le bruit s'est répandu que Lumumba était parti de chez lui. On a commencé à le chercher. Mobutu a demandé aux Nations Unies de lui donner des hélicoptères. On l'a poursuivi. On l'a arrêté. On les a mis dans un hélicoptère. On l'a ramené ici, ligoté, comme un vulgaire bandit.
On Mobutu's orders, Patrice Lumumba was sent to his death. It was barely 6 months since Congo celebrated independence.
C'était terrible. Vous enlevez celui qui est le flambeau, l'icône, tout d'un coup, comme ça, et d'une façon très barbare, en utilisant les mains africaines. Alors c'était frustrant, c'était écœurant, c'était un appel à l'insurrection populaire. Il faut venger cela. Ce pays est à nous et je vais me battre pour lui. C'était l'étincelle qui m'a fait conduire sur le chemin du maquis, de la guérilla.
A witch hunt tracking down Lumumba's followers started in the capital. One by one, the Lumumbas fled to the safe haven across the river in Brazzaville. They organized themselves into an armed rebellion led by the 23-year-old Laurent Kabila.
Okay, so we're going to stop there. One moment, and I'm going to quickly go to the portion on a mill called Cabral. Okay, everybody can still hear me? Can everybody hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, good. All right, so I just want to, so that's the story of Patrice Lumumba and how it essentially took place. Oh, actually, did I skip a portion? Okay, no, all right. And I'm fast forwarding really quickly to get into a conversation essentially about a mill called Cabral, okay, in Guinea-Bissau. What's important about Guinea-Bissau is the fact that it was one of the Portuguese colonies, unfortunately. It would be one of the few It would be one of the few African nations in West Africa. Let me talk to you guys in person here. Be one of the few African countries in West Africa to actually wage an armed struggle. It's unique in the sense that it's both men and women who would engage in this armed struggle. It would not just be one or the other. There would be regular civilians who decided that they were willing to take up arms and engage in an armed struggle for the purpose of their liberation. What also is important is to understand that Amilcar Cabral, in his leadership of the Congo, in his leadership of Guinea-Bissau, would be very clear about the fact that there was ethnic diversity and differences between the masses of the people in Guinea-Bissau and Cape Verde. Okay, he did not believe, and he knew as someone who was from there, that the people were homogeneous. Okay, and I'm giving emphasis to this because there's always this question when I teach this course as to how do we unify when we're different? You know, how do we unify when, we're not all the same. We don't all have the same interests. We don't all this, that, and other. So how do we do that? And essentially, this is the answer with regard to that. The masses of African people are not homogeneous, okay? And what Amilcar Cabral talks about is having a common struggle for the purpose of liberating ourselves from the current situation, which is colonialism, and for us today, neo-colonialism. Okay, and he recognizes that, and he has a very specific line and thought with regard to that, and it's about the struggle itself, preparing the people for the victory of acting in unison and working in unison together as a nation of people with the same interests. So that is the significance, not just in totality, but just one of the major significant lines and significant points that Amilcar Cabral brings to an analysis of our struggle, not just on the African continent, but worldwide, which is the fact that we have to respect the diversity of our people and understand that here is a common interest, and that in the process, so us working even in the context of this organization to organize and address a particular issue is the process through which we forge the bonds we need in order to act out our unity, in order to claim our liberation, so to speak, right? So in other words, working together is the bonding process. Struggling together is the bonding process, because we are coming to the experience fully aware that we have ethnic and sometimes even national and other cultural differences, although we share Blackness, right? Although we have our origins on the African continent, okay? And so he emphasizes this, and he's very adept at that, because you'll see in motion how this plays out, meaning that he would not allow Cubans who would lend support to the struggle in Guinea-Bissau. He would not allow Cubans to put boots on the ground, so to speak, and fight in this armed struggle. He was insistent that the people of Guinea-Bissau be the ones to actually fight and struggle, right? Not people from outside, okay? So let me just finish that up, and then we'll have a more complete conversation. I think, let me see, what time is it? Okay, so it's just 15 minutes left of our session, but I'm gonna make this really quick, okay? Let's see, hold on. Share. Okay.
After Che retreated from the Congo, Cuba hosted an unprecedented gathering that included virtually every armed revolutionary movement from the three poorest continents. the Tricontinental Conference reinforced the island's role as the leader of internationalism. For Fidel, this was a good opportunity to assess the qualities of the revolutionaries he wanted to support. It was undoubtedly Amilcar Cabral who stole the limelight. Cabral, only 31 years old, was leading a fierce struggle against the Portuguese Empire in one of Africa's smallest and poorest nations, Guinea-Bissau.
Esta conferencia, aquí en Cuba, territorio libre de América, y primer país socialista en el hemisferio occidental, es en realidad una grande promesa, una grande esperanza para todos los pueblos que luchan contra el imperialismo.
Pero ya había un antecedente de América cuando se había entrevistado en el recorrido que hace el Che por distintos países, que llega a Conakry, tiene la oportunidad de hablar con América. Y el Che dice que uno de los movimientos de liberación más serios que hay en ese momento y de más posibilidad en ese momento es el movimiento de la liberación de la colonia de Guinea-Bissau y Cabo Verde.
Après les grands discours de Fidel Castro, Amilcar Cabral fait un discours remarquable. Il a caractérisé, je m'appelle ça, très bien la situation en Afrique, en partir de son propre pays, en parlant des ethnies, en parlant d'états de pauvreté, d'exploitation, pour justifier l'idée de continuer la lutte armée, c'est parce qu'il n'y avait pas autre voie, parce que les grandes puissances s'opposaient à l'indépendance des colonies portugaises, par exemple.
For years, Amilcar's struggle was not of much consequence. But when the guerrillas started capturing territory, suddenly the importance of this neglected colony became evident. For Portugal, much more was at stake in Guinea-Bissau. This tiny colony could prove to be the empire's Achilles heel.
Y se liberaba Guinea-Bissau, y así se demostró después. Se desprendía la liberación del resto de los países de habla portuguesa que colonizados. Entonces, allí estaba el eslabón más flojo que tenían de la cadena, desde el punto de vista de los portugueses. No podían permitir, tuvieron hasta que hicieron todo el esfuerzo para no permitir que se dejara ninguna de las colonias, y mucho menos Guinea, que iba a ser el ejemplo del resto de las colonias para su liberación.
Il n'avait pas beaucoup de richesses. À ce moment-là, la Guinée devait recevoir de l'argent du Portugal. C'était un pays où on faisait l'agriculture, pas plus. L'agriculture arriérée, on faisait la Guinée. Et tandis que ce n'était pas le cas en Angola, où il y avait des immigrés qui étaient des commerçants, des hommes d'affaires. C'était des richesses de l'Angola et de Mozambique qu'ils voyaient, parce que la Guinée n'ont rien fait.
The Portuguese were aware of their weakness, but they held a trump card. The government leased a strip of land on the Azores Islands to the US Defense Department. That airbase was used to protect American allies in the East, like Israel and Saudi Arabia. The lease was renewable annually, so Portugal had every intention to use the Azores airbase as a bargaining chip.
Well, under the fascist regime of Portugal, Angola, Mozambique, and Guinea-Bissau were part of Portugal. So the idea of giving up these colonies was unthinkable for that regime. So if we went to them and said, look, you must get out of Angola, we'll be very upset with you and all that, they might well have cut us out of the Azores. So NATO and the Cold War was far more important to us. There was a special law about not allowing U.S. arms given to Portugal to use them in Africa, but they did violate it, and we didn't do anything about it. In fact, we did not cut them off, even though we knew it, they were using them.
Nous n'avons pas même voulu nous mettre dans cette guerre-là entre l'Est et l'Ouest. Nous n'avons pas voulu, non. Mais malgré que beaucoup de gens disaient que ce sont des communistes, beaucoup de gens disaient ça, mais on n'avait pas de preuves. Comme disait Amilcar, nous étions des nationalistes africains, sans option idéologique.
Amilcar knew that it would be difficult to avoid labeling his movement, and having Cuban fighters would do little to dispel the belief that they were firmly allied to the Eastern Bloc. But he had a vision and a very clear strategy as to how to fight his battle for independence.
Es decir, que Amílcar no llega pidiendo, deme hombre, mándeme hombre, ¿no? Teníamos la idea de que habíamos sacado ya del Congo, de que venían a venir más tropas de cubanos a ayudar a Amílcar. Y en aquel momento Amílcar no quería más tropas de cubanos.
Son los guineanos que tienen que luchar. Y tú metes un batallón ahí, va a ser el batallón y no los congoleños. Y tienen que aprender, mediante la lucha, prepararse para la victoria. Es una idea muy, aunque fuera un poco más larga la lucha, pero una idea muy interesante de ir forjando en medio de la lucha la nación. Hay que forjar una nueva nación, además tribus diferentes, solo la lucha por unirla.
Che's defeat in the Congo was still a fresh wound, and Fidel began to consider how his help could be more effective. This time, the bulk of Cuban support came in the form of artillery experts, doctors, and technicians. Soldiers would go only if requested.
They also took some lessons from their debacle in Congo. In Guinea-Bissau, the involvement was quite different. It was more of, in a good sense, technical nature of helping local forces of PAGC, the army, especially helping in those specialities when they hadn't got enough expertise, you see, to fight Portuguese. So it's more of, in the good sense, supportive role, you see.
Amilcar had no illusions about his capacity to defeat the mighty Portuguese Empire. He wanted to wear them down in order to get them to the negotiating table.
En la conversación que tiene Amílcar conmigo, en el frente, él me explica, se basaban en no atacar los cuarteles con intenciones de tomarlos, porque no había suficiente fuerza en condiciones en ese momento para eso. Lo que quería era desangrar, hacerle baja, bastante baja al enemigo y hacerle la vida imposible con ese tipo de combate. Hasta que se le haría la vida imposible en los cuarteles.
The war escalated, and the Portuguese sent 22,000 more soldiers. Amilcar's demoralization tactics had worked. The Portuguese felt trapped. Veteran captains from the colonial army in Guinea-Bissau decided to take the initiative in their own hands. It was they who overthrew the dictatorship, creating the Carnation Revolution in Portugal. And within months, the Portuguese colonial empire crumbled like a house of cards.
In this liberation movement, there was no military victory, never. And they did not destroy the colonial machine, but they created, even vis-à-vis Algeria and France for that matter, they created such a situation that before getting victory, they force the enemy to retreat, to come to some compromise. Usually it's in the form, it's compromise. In the essence, it's the victory of the liberation forces. That's exactly happened in each and every country.
The Portuguese army left Guinea-Bissau in October 1974. But the man who pushed the empire over the brink was not there to witness the fruits of his struggle. Amilcar Cabral was killed a year earlier by members of the Portuguese secret police. The who's who of revolutionaries gathered at Amilcar's tomb. Beside Fidel Castro stood Agostinho Neto, the leader of Angola's liberation movement. Cuba had for years been supporting Neto's movement, but the scale of Fidel Castro's military involvement in Angola after the collapse of the Portuguese Empire would soon change the face of the continent.
Okay, so we'll end there. I'll end there, essentially. Okay. All right. So we'll end there in that sense. So you have two really important examples of this issue being addressed with regard to the diversity, but also one, the relevance and the impact of African nations, and why the world is interested and invested in the liberation of African people, as opposed to not interested in and invested in the liberation of African people. And it's in our unity, okay? It is very much a very broad conversation for those who are dependent upon Africa, and that is most of the world. Someone posted in the group a very interesting video with regard to that. A scholar, a white male scholar, talking about how invested most of the world is in keeping Africa subjugated. So this is an example of that, right? Particularly with regard to the Congo. And then the other is the example of Amilcar Cabral and the struggle that we face every day with regard to unity, right? For the purpose of eradicating oppression and exploitation. If colonialism isn't exploitation and oppression, I don't know what is. And so the story of Amilcar Cabral is certainly one where he is navigating an African nation that is ethnically diverse and trying to prepare people for the ultimate struggle, which is the struggle for our liberation, okay? And respecting that diversity. Amilcar Cabral is also the person who, in text, he was a magnificent theorist in terms of our liberation, but he is the person in writing who asserts that we can not only view ourselves in this Marxist-Leninist role or in Marxist-Leninist line where we are devoid of history and culture as tools of liberation. We need to invoke those things as well. And just for those of you who don't understand the Marxist-Leninist line, many of our African leadership on the continent subscribe to a Marxist-Leninist line where they believe that we could take that material approach to addressing our oppression. However, for African people whose cultures have been erased as a means of colonizing them, whose histories have been erased as a means of colonizing us, we have to reclaim those things. And Amilcar Cabral is one of those breakout kind of theoreticians around this that talks about precisely this issue, that no, we can't, it's not a cookie cutter thing. We can't take a Marxist-Leninist Eastern Bloc or Eastern European kind of analysis and apply it neatly to the condition and situation of Africans. It doesn't work, okay? So he is someone who talks about that. I might share that also in terms of the reading. And then he also is the person who talks about our connection and strengthening our ties. If you read the readings in the course this past week, you have two essays, one from the week before, and then one this past week, where he talks about the connecting the struggles and informant talk with Black Americans. And then the other piece that you had to read was identity and dignity in the context of national liberation, national liberation struggle. So those are the two pieces that you have by Amilcar Cabral. So those are really important as well, because it's sort of this film and the clip from it sort of exemplifies some of what he's talking about there, with the exception of the connection between African Americans. So I'm going to stop there because I don't want to like go over too far. In your readings for this week, there also was the Nkrumah piece, the need for a union government. I'll wrap that up in our next session because I wanted to make sure that you have these two benchmark contexts of Patrice Lumumba and of Amilcar Cabral under your belt, so you understand, one, like I said, the context, the world's position on African liberation and unity. They do have one, okay? It's not a neutral thing. They're not indifferent towards our unity. They know what unity of African people in the world means. Okay, it means a complete stop to the exploitation and the oppression of African people in this world, which other people are invested in. And I also wanted you all to just get a snapshot. And that's not even a full picture of Amilcar Cabral, but at least a snapshot of the theoretical position of Amilcar Cabral and the actual participation and practice as he applied his theoretical position, which is this understanding that we are diverse, that we are ethnically diverse, that we are culturally diverse, that we are linguistically diverse, we are not homogeneous in any way, and that we have to embark on this struggle. So you all are in I Love Black People, and this facilitates, you are facilitating that, you are engaging in work that is with other African and Black people for the purpose of our collective liberation and our freedom in terms of moving around the world and insulating us from racism and white supremacy. However, you know, in his time, Amilcar Cabral, the struggle was a more obvious one in the sense that they were being occupied by colonial force, okay? I guess the complexity of our situation is that racism spans the world. So we're not just fighting in one place. Wouldn't that be nice? But it's not. That being said, that is the other example you should have gotten from today. So you should know who Amilcar Cabral is. You should know who Patrice Lumumba was. Both of them assassinated, essentially, okay? I'm gonna leave it right there because like I said, I don't wanna go too far over time. And we'll get some, okay, so I don't know when this person entered the group, Queen Bingy, but I'll repost the last readings. I assume that like if you're just if you just are entering the course, which I hope you're not, if you're just coming in or you're watching on some other platform, you should register for the course so that you can get it from the beginning, because the only people who would have access to the documents are the people who are actually registered for the course through I Love Black People. So talk to the administrators. Can you please repost how they can register for the course, the next cycle of this course? 2, that film is not on Netflix. That film, Cuban African Odyssey, is actually in YouTube. So you can just follow the link that I gave you just now, or that was in the course already, or you can just go onto YouTube and search Cuba and African Odyssey. Okay. And okay, good. I'm glad you can see and hear me clearly. Hello again, Andrew. All right, so not a lot of comments. All right, good. I know by the time you get to me, you've been on here since 10 o'clock in the West, and I don't know how long elsewhere, but yes. So, okay, good. Not a lot of questions, but I will repost some of the documents from this past week and the link for that film. And then we're on to some other stuff because we're covering Nkrumah, and I'm going to sort of conflate the two in our final week, which is coming up. And I have a funeral to go to, so I don't know how long our session will be next week, but I'm trying to at least put in the solid hour. That being said, I will be putting up the actual documents, final documents Monday. It won't be late this time. You might get it early because I know it's on the horizon in terms of my time for our lecture next week. Okay. That being said, thank you everyone for your time, putting in the time. Thank you. Who is that? Joshua. Nice to meet you and see you. So I appreciate you all and your dedication to doing this. And I am because we are. And stay safe, okay?
I am because
Bye.
we are. Thank you so much, Dr. Terry Wright, and thank you so much, everyone, for attending this lecture. Hope we learned everything and we were taking notes when the video clip was being played. I can see there is Elijah Nyabuti, Fahim Speed, Henry Mandamere, Hubert Ofori, John Jones, Joshua Chupio, Marcus Chela, Michael Adumbila, Akepe, Morgan, Moses Jr., PGVB, Rosie DJN. We appreciate all of you. We love you. Thank you so much for being supportive. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. I am because we are. I'm out. Peace and love. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.